Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Allie and I am an EMT basic in the state of North Carolina, and I'm just going to share with you guys some of my worst horror and experiences as being an EMT. If you guys don't know what EMT is, that's an emergency medical technician, and I ride on the ambulance. So if you guys call 911, the ambulance calls out, that's me. Disclaimer, I worked night shift as an EMT basic, so all of the calls that I got were all on night shift. Shifts for me are 12 hours long. So the first call that I got that I remember, there was this girl. I don't remember how old she was. She was like in her teenage years, and we got a call to a possible poisoning. So one thing that you'll learn about dispatch, if you are interested in being an EMT or paramedic, dispatch tries their best to give you information, but it's usually inaccurate. So we got there. This time the girl was like laying on the floor. She's like, oh my God, Mama, I'm sorry, Mama. Like that's all she said on repeat for like a good 5 minutes, just Mama, I'm sorry. And we're asking the family like, hey, like what's going on with her? They're like, she was just throwing up like everywhere. She had diarrhea all over the bathroom. She can't stop doing it. And we were like, oh. We were trying to get a medical history, allergic to anything unusual today. And they're like, no, she's just going through a lot. We think that she might have like drank some alcohol. And we were like, oh. And I was thinking, oh, alcohol? That's that? But anyway, so she was like, she said that she thought that she drank, her family thought she drank alcohol. When we asked the girl about it, she was like, no, I didn't drink any alcohol. I drank this water bottle. She kept saying it over and over. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I'm sorry. I kept drinking this water bottle. I drank a water bottle. We're like, a water bottle? Like, was there water in it? She's like, I don't know. It was just a water bottle. I'm just like, what? Like, we don't know what's in this water bottle. Or like, what trash can? Like, we can't find it. So finally, some of her family members were like, oh, sometimes we keep alcohol in the freezer. Maybe she drinks like alcohol and that's why they thought she drank it. And we were like, all right. So we got her vitals, and I was new at the time. So my paramedic told me to go ahead and get vitals because I needed to learn and get in there. And of course I had gloves on, but she was throwing up so much. She had throw up like all in her arms, and like she's laying on herself. So I'm trying to like roll her over to get to her arms. She's like, Mom, I'm sorry, while I'm taking her vitals. And I was just like, this is a part of the job. This is part of the job. Don't throw up with her. So we just went ahead and rolled her over. Her family like dabbed her up real quick. I took her vitals. And then later we find out police came on this call because we didn't know if it was a suicide attempt or like what was going on. And usually for EMS, including, well, at least where the county I worked for, they had usually fire always came out with us, and then if police were needed, police would come, and depending on the call they would already be there. But she went ahead and she just like, she was still vomiting. Her vitals were like normal. They weren't that bad. Her blood pressure was a little high. Her blood glucose wasn't anything crazy either. So finally, she just keeps saying, Mom, I'm so sorry. I was just so sad. I was so sad. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. So she wanted to go. She got ready and everything. And then the officers come back from the back, and they come and they whisper like, hey. And they come to like me and my partner like, hey, I found this in the trash can. I think maybe she drank this. And you know what he's holding? A bottle of nail polish remover. And then her family like overheard, and they like were, they were like, hey, did you drink nail polish remover? Did you drink that? And so she's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mama, I'm sorry. And her family's yelling at her. I'm like, the girl is throwing up and having diarrhea everywhere. She has high blood pressure. Can we, like, we need to get her to the hospital. And her and the family are arguing. She can't like stand up. I have to carry her. And I'm a small little thing. So like I'm holding on her arm while she's walking down her house steps. And she's like, ugh, and like falling. I'm like, I got you, girl. I got you, girl. And we got her down there, and her mom is still following us, like talking like, why would you do that? Why are you doing this? We're like, ma'am, we can't confirm that. We don't know. We're just gonna treat it the best we can. And like we were trying to take vitals in the ambulance, all this stuff, and we couldn't because she kept saying, Mom, I'm sorry, I hate myself, I hate this. And I was just like, girl, you're young, relax, things will get better. Maybe you just don't want to be in this environment, but it'll get better. And that was her story. And she ended up she did drink nail polish remover. Hopefully she's okay. After we drop patients off at the hospital, you're probably thinking, do you know like an update? We kind of know updates. So we have this system to where after we drop off a patient at the hospital, eventually it'll update in our system. If we had the patient personally, it'll tell us the outcome, what the doctor treated them for, what was wrong, and if they got released or not. So for some patients, you can go back and check on them and be like, I wonder what happened. This next story, I'll say this was like one of my scarier stories were like, I was a little scared for me, because as an EMT, you know, you know that there's going to be like some risks and things. They give us bulletproof vests if we have any shooting calls, or if you just want to wear yours all the time to feel comfortable. So we got a call out to a prison, and they were like, oh, one of the prisoners that got in, he's saying that he's short of breath, he's having chest pain, all this stuff. We're like, oh, okay. So I've never been to a prison before, and we go out there, and when we go in there, this guy is wailing. He's so rude. Like, the officer in there, he's like, oh, you have a little penis, this and that, I don't like you, you're rude, you can suck this. Like, he was just going off to the officers and everything. And he was a big dude, like, he was a little bulky, like, I couldn't take him. So he was like requesting for me to take his vitals and stuff, and I was like, and my partner's like, we're like, how about I do it? Because he was handcuffed and everything, and he kept spitting on people, so they had a spit bag on his face. So they did his vitals, we checked, he let me go ahead, he put his, like, for glucose, it's just pricking your finger, so he put his arm out so I could do his glucose, so I didn't have to get like too close to him. And then my partners, they were male, so like they handled that one. So after that, we couldn't find anything like really wrong with him, including with what he was complaining about. And for certain medications that we have, we cannot give it to you. Even if it's like, if you say you have chest pain, there's something called nitroglycerin. I cannot give you nitroglycerin if you have not had a prescription for it. Now, if you tell me you had a prescription for it, I can give it to you. If it turns out that you didn't later down the line, that's on you. But like, there was nothing like that we could give to him. Those symptoms that were showing, we're like, oh, your vitals are within range, you're doing pretty good. So the jail is like, does he check out? We're like, yeah, he checks out, he's fine. Then all of a sudden he falls, he's like, oh my God, my chest. And we're like, oh, are you okay? And like, after that, like, we kept checking him, and he kept making up like more excuses. Oh, my head, my leg, I think I broke this. And we're just like, I think you check out fine. And we had to go report it to like some other nurses that were at the prison. They're like, nope, sorry, you got to take him with you. You got to take him, because if he's complaining of this, you said that you found nothing, but you still have to take him in case there really is an underlying cause, and we don't want that on our hands. And we're like, and the guy's just back there like bucking with the officers and spitting on everybody, even though he has the spit shield on. And I'm like, we have to take him in our ambulance? Like, please, no. Because usually if we have a patient like that, that's like that, we can do restraints on them and police would have to come. But the police officers that were there, they're like, nah, it's fine, we'll take him. And they were a little frustrated that like the nurses wouldn't let him back in the prison after we checked him out. But that was that guy. He was just like really big, really rude, and just like spitting and like bucking. And I was just like, back up, please, I'm little. So the other story that I had, there's this guy, so I don't have like really like a really good sense of smell, and we got called out to a house. Somebody said that the lights were on for a really long time. They know their neighbor, they haven't seen him, so they went in his house and they found him dead. So if someone passes away, we have to go out there and pronounce death. I am an EMT basic, so I cannot pronounce death. Paramedics can, and after the paramedics can, they can call a doctor, and the doctor can go ahead and like write the certificate, get the timestamp and everything. So I went there, I was still new, and my partner, the guy that was training me, he was like, have you ever seen a dead body? Like, before we got in there. I was like, no, I haven't. He's like, okay. He was like, if it's too much for you, like, let me know and stuff. He was like, but we're gonna go in there. And I was like, all right. And I was prepping myself. I was like, if I can't deal with a dead body, I can't do this job. I was like, I got this, I got this. And I got in there, and it wasn't that bad. So if you guys don't know me, I don't have a sense of smell. I lost my smell about 1.5 years ago. So we went in there, I couldn't smell dead bodies. Like, you smell that? I was like, no, I don't smell that. But anyway, he was like, I was like, so we go in there, and the way that the man passed away was very odd to me, but he says probably because of natural causes. So the way that he passed away was, he had his shirt like over his head, so you couldn't really see like his eyes, and his arms were still in his shirt, but like it looked like he was trying to take his shirt off, and he like died in the middle of taking his shirt off. And so he was just like, we don't know. I forgot what he said that we didn't know about the body, but because of like how his shirt was, I was like, you don't think it's like suspicious? He's like, no, I think he just passed away like that. So we didn't like take his shirt off or anything. We felt dead bodies are really, really stiff. Really stiff, really cold. I'm talking like freezer cold, dog bone hard, like it just doesn't move. So he was like, he's like, since you've never felt a dead body or anything, like just touch him. And I was nervous Because I don't know why. I think horror movies, I think like all of a sudden he's gonna be like, oh, gotcha, but he didn't. He died, sadly. But he was just really cold and really stiff. There was nothing that we could do for him, so we just went ahead and pronounced him dead. And the only funny thing to that story was, so with the partner that I was with, the man, like he'd been dead for a couple of days, and he had a lot of stuff in his room, a lot of food that was unfinished, and so there was roaches in there. So he told me like, be mindful of the roaches, and we have like long boots, so like I was just looking around like, don't get on me, little roach, watch out. And one of the people there, they like were like close to a wall writing their report, and a roach crawled on their back, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be like, hey, you have a roach on you. I was like, but do I just smack it off? And I like sat there contemplating, and it kept crawling, and I was just like, ah! And I smacked it off their back. They're like, what? I was like, nothing. You just had something crawling on you. You're fine. I was just like, oh, okay. I know we're done here. And then, so this is my last story. I have more EMT stories if you guys want to hear this, so make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you want more of these videos. I can also tell you how long it took me to become an EMT and all that kind of stuff, EMT school and tips, because it didn't take your girl long at all, but like a couple of months. So this last story, I'll say this was like, it was my first shooting. It wasn't the most gruesome thing that I have, well, I guess it was, but you would expect it to be gruesome is what I'll say, but it wasn't that gruesome. So we got called out, and they're like, we're gonna need CPR. It was a shooting. So we get called out there. My partners, I've never been on a call like this, and this is serious. I was in training then, so they were like, hey, I'm gonna need this off the truck, this, and they're naming stuff, and some of the stuff I'm not familiar with because I'm an EMT basic. I didn't know like all of the paramedic things, so I'm like, oh my God, what is that called? What is that? You need this drug, that drug, okay, where is that at? And I had to like memorize. She's like, as soon as we got the truck, grab it and let's go. And we grabbed that and went up there, and it turned out her family was downstairs crying. The kids weren't home, but they did have kids at the time. The kids weren't home. They were supposed to be going out somewhere. We don't know when it went wrong or like what happened exactly. But her husband, she was like laying on the bed, like if she was here, he was like all the way back here, and he like shot her. It was kind of at point blank range, and she didn't like see it coming. Like how we saw her, she was sitting on the bed like reading a book, and got shot in the side of her head, and like she just didn't see it coming. And it was just really sad, because that was like one of those things that like made me upset, because we got there, there was bullets on the floor, so we had to like watch out for it. And we go ahead, we rip her shirt, we set her up on the monitor. It's called a life pack to see like her heart waves, and we set it up. And when we set it up, she had some waves. Like she wasn't living, but she wasn't dead. I don't know how I can like explain that better, but she had some kind of heart waves. And it's one of those things where it's like, we could do CPR on her and try to work her, but because of the mechanism of injury and how bad it was, like she got shot right in the side of her head. We couldn't see how big the hole was because her hair was like stuck to her face and there was blood all over the place. But we know because of how close it was, she wasn't moving. She had no pulse. She had no pulse in her wrist. She had no pulse in her carotid. She didn't have pulses. And then we saw the heart waves whenever we plugged her up on the monitor and put the stickers on her chest, and we're like, this woman does not have pulses anywhere. You know, she's getting cold and she has heart waves, so we could have done CPR on her, but because of how she was dying and that she didn't have pulses, it was like we would have worked her. She probably wouldn't have come back. We wouldn't have got ROSC on her, or if there was a slight, like getting people back is like really thin chance, and for what she had, it was even slimmer, like almost non-existent. So we didn't work her, because if she would have came back, she would have just died again, because she didn't, like, if that makes sense, she didn't have pulses anywhere. She was already cold. She got shot dead in her head, really close. It was just, and it was hard dealing with her family and everything. They didn't know why they did this. He had kids. And you would think, okay, what happened to the husband? while we're at that scene, we hear, like, we have our walkie-talkies, we can hear all the calls everybody's going on, and I just have mine turned down low, and then we hear another call for another shooting. The husband, he drove somewhere far away and shot himself in the head after he killed her, and he died. And we didn't go to that scene, we didn't see that. Someone else worked that. But for them, they actually did CPR on the guy. And because he shot himself so close compared to that girl getting shot like a little far, he didn't come back after that CPR. Like, kept working him. And after like a certain amount of CPR, you can just pronounce somebody dead if you don't want to pronounce them dead already. So he died and she died, and I felt bad because the family was in really bad shape, and I was like, just how are the kids gonna be? But those are some of my stories as being an EMT, some of the worst and odd stories that I have had. If you guys like this video, please like and comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I can tell you guys more of these stories if you like this kind of series or more things I've experienced, or whatever you want to know about becoming an EMT basic. One thing that I will tell you guys before I go is I am open to sharing these stories. I'm fairly new with it, and the things that I've experienced don't bother me as bad because I haven't had anything that I deem really traumatic. But for a lot of EMTs or paramedic, which is the higher level, don't ask them what is the worst call that you've been on, because that's kind of like a slap in the face and offended to them. When I first wanted to be an EMT, I asked somebody that, and they were really, really upset. And the way they explained it to me made a lot of sense. It was like, don't ask me what my worst call is, because that's kind of forcing me to relive my trauma. You know, like, I'm asking them to rethink about the worst moment they have ever had on the job and tell me the story, which is kind of rude. So I just wouldn't ask that question, if that makes sense. But I appreciate you guys for watching the video. I hope you have wonderful, amazing days such as yourself. And don't forget, your existence matters.